Hello everyone, it's Amy, and welcome back for week 142 of Build Your Stash and Craft. Today we are going to make braiding circles. I don't know what they're really called, but they're out there. You can buy them at the craft stores. And I got one a long time ago at Walmart on clearance for $5, and that was on clearance. And every time I went to the Dollar Tree and I passed these little fraction circles, they're in the kids' school section, it just made me think of that I bought a long time ago. So I'm going to show you how to make them. You can get 3 of them for $1 instead of 1 of them for $5 on clearance. We also got some embroidery floss for our project today. But these circles they're for little kids to learn fractions, and they break apart. So they're made to just break apart very easily. And so what we're going to do is we're going to back it with a nice solid piece of cardboard so it doesn't break. But the thickness of this, and if you can't find these, you can use just cardboard for this, a few layers of cardboard, probably a sturdy cardboard underneath and then corrugated cardboard on top, because you do want something that's a little bit soft to put your threads into. And, or you could use a few, any kind of a piece of thick foam or whatever. So, but what we're going to do first is we're just going to take, I have this nice heavy piece of cardboard that I got in some packaging. And so you see how flimsy this is. And even though I did show you that it breaks apart, it doesn't take very long for it to break apart, even if I hadn't have showed you that. So they don't, they're meant to break apart, so you can't use them as is. You need to make them solid. So we're just going to take this circle and we're going to draw around it. Whoops. And really, the size of the circle is not going to make any difference on the size of your braiding. So if, and I lost my scissors. I have to use these. So you don't have to, if you're going to make your own and you don't have these circles, it's not necessary to make a bigger circle because this is plenty big enough. And so the braiding is going to, it's just a braid. So the braid depends on the size of whatever fibers you use, will make the difference of this, how fat your braid is or how skinny your braid is. And when I get this cut out, I'll measure this just to tell you what size this circle is, but it really doesn't matter. If you don't have this and you have to cut your own foam or your own cardboard or whatever, you can just draw around a glass or something. It does not have to be this size. Like I said, the size does not make a difference, but I will tell you what size this is. Okay, so it looks like that's about 4 inches across. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the flimsiest side, which is this side, and we're going to glue that down. Like I said, it doesn't make a difference because those are made to completely break apart. And so both sides are flimsy. Make sure you get it out to the edge. The edge is really your most important part, because that's the part that's going to get used the most. And you actually could skip the middle. I didn't, but you can skip the center part because we're going to poke a hole in it. And then I just like kind of twist it around a little bit to make sure that we get that glue all nice and spread around and nice and flat. Get it nice and even on all sides. And when you use tacky glue or any kind of a wet glue, it's going to be a little bit slippery, so when you press it down to make contact, it's very possibly going to slip, just like it did right here. And so just make sure that after you've really pressed it down well, make sure that you line it back up. Now, I let it sit like that for a few minutes so that it kind of really grabs, and then I stick it under a couple heavy books. The reason that I wait just a couple minutes is because this is a little bit slippery. I'm afraid that if I put the book on it right now, I could possibly make it shift. So I'm going to leave it set for a second and then put it under a heavy book, and I'm going to let it set. So that's the biggest thing, is you want it to be nice and sturdy. And if if you don't let it set before you do anything else, it's going to be moving around and it's not going to be very sturdy. So I have this one here, and this one is already got the cardboard. It's been sitting, I would say overnight, but actually it's been longer than overnight. And so what we're going to do now is we've glued it on to some nice heavy cardboard. And the reason I used that heavy cardboard, this is pretty thick. If you only have regular cereal box chipboard, glue 2 pieces together, because the other one that I made, I only used a piece of cereal box and it really didn't seem thick enough. So then I went hunting for something a little thicker. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make marks on each one of these lines at about 1/4 of an inch. They don't have to be perfect. I don't even have to measure it. I think I did my other one at either 1/2 an inch or an inch, and that was too far. You just have to put your string in. Your string goes in a lot further, and sometimes it kind of disappears because it goes in so far. It gets down in the crack and I can't see where it's at. So we're going to do 1/4 of an inch. You can eyeball it. That's not a problem. And this is a tool that will last you a very long time. Once you get it glued to a nice piece of cardboard. Okay, there we go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my knife, because I want to have these slits go through to the cardboard, but only that 1/4 of an inch deep. So I'm just going to take my knife and put it in the slit and just pull it out. And now when you put your knife in here and it goes through to the other side, the point might go a little further, so they may not all be exactly the same. And then you just want to make sure that you actually have a slit, if you can see that. Okay, and we're just going to do that all the way around until we get to the other side. Now in the beginning these slits are pretty tight, and that one didn't hardly make a slit at all, so I need to make sure that I get my knife in there far enough. You do want to have a slit that's about, I would say, no less than 1/4 of an inch, because you don't want your threads to slip out when you start braiding. Just check it each time just to make sure that you've got it. And then the one thing that I did not try, and I don't have any right here handy, is ribbon. I was going to try ribbon and see how that looks. You can use anything, any kind of a fiber will work just fine. So you can use your fuzzy fibers, you can use yarn, you can use embroidery floss, you can use twine. And like I said, I didn't try ribbon, but I was going to, because you can use ribbon. I'm sure that it will work. I was just wondering, I was curious as to what it would look like. So that's something that you might want to give a try once you get yours made. Okay, so we've gone all the way around. We've got about 1/4 of an inch cut. This one's not cut. It has a dent, but it's not cut. Okay, so I just kind of want to go through. This one's also not cut. Go through and just make sure that all the cuts are actually cut all the way through. Well, I didn't do a very good job on these. Oh, this one's got 2 little cuts in it now, which is not going to make a difference. Okay, looks like we have our cuts all the way through. All right, once you get your cuts in there, then what we need to do is we need to poke a hole in the center. And let me see, what did I do with my pokey tools? I have them here. Let me grab them. I think they're on the back side of the table. There they are. I just wanted the pokey tool so I could just... The reason that I love these is because they're already divided for you. And I did look on YouTube to see the pattern on how to on how to braid these and everything. And the ones that they all have eight divisions. So on this one, once it's dry, well, we could do it right now. Because this one is not cut that way, we can just go ahead and draw our lines just like this. Okay, and then we would want to divide that in half. Let's see. From point to point, it's 2 3/4. So that would be 1 1/4 1/8. So that would be my center line. 1 1/4 1/8. So that should be the middle right there. And then we'll just draw a line across there. And hope that that's, oops. Hope that's the center. And it looks good. And then whatever size circle that you draw, you'll just want to find your divisions to divide it into 8 equal pieces of pie. Okay, so there we go. That's what we'll do with that one, and then we'll let that one sit and dry. Okay, I just want to poke my hole through to the other side so that I can kind of just cut a little circle right here through the cardboard, because we're going to need a hole for our yarn to go through the center of the circle or whatever fibers we're using. And it doesn't have to be any specific size. The other one I just kind of punched a hole through the center. I mean, it was a bigger hole like this, but I just kind of pushed my pen through it and made sure that my pen went all the way through. And once you throw your fibers through there, they're through there. It doesn't make a difference. So let's get the cardboard out of our way. And then let's see about just making this hole like this. That cardboard was just too heavy for me to try and poke the pen all the way through. But being that this foam is soft, there we go. Now if you want, you can go in and you can cut these little points off, or you could just do it this way. And so there we go. Now we have this circle. And with this circle, when I saw them doing it, when I looked to see the how to do it, they use 7 pieces of fiber. And so what you do is you take 7 pieces of fiber, about twice as long as what you want your end result to be. And so this one is, I believe this one was 12 inches. Then you tie a knot in one end, and then you just poke it through to the other side so that you have your knot sticking out like that. And then what you're going to do is you're going to hold your knot basically right in that hole. And really, it does not matter the way that you put your colors. I tried doing it a couple different ways, and it doesn't, I suppose maybe it makes a difference, not that I could notice. And you're just going to take one string and put it through each one of your little slots. And I just try and make sure that I take whatever string is kind of on top when I'm trying to pick it up. That way I'm not like putting them around each other. And see, we're just going to put it right through there. Is that's the slot that I cut the 2 times, I think. And the more that you use this, then the bigger those slots will get. Though that's what's nice about this foam, because the slots do get bigger and eventually they just get a little bit too loose. But with the foam like goes back to its original shape. So I haven't noticed with the ones that I've made yet that the foam is getting any looser. And the foam is what really holds it for you. You don't really have to even push it super hard through the cardboard. The cardboard is really there to keep your circle in shape so that it doesn't break apart. And then what you're going to do is you are going to hold on to your knot, because that gives you something to hold on to. And then depending on whether you're left-handed or right-handed, it doesn't make a difference. You can do it either way. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to hold it with my left hand. And I'm going to, okay, now this is the thing. You can do any patterns that you want to. I've tried a whole bunch of different ones. I've tried like skipping 1, skipping 2, but I believe that they skipped 3 in their teachings. So what I'm going to do is I'm right-handed. So I'm going to go up 3 on the right-hand side, take that one out, and bring it right down in front of me. Always, you'll have one empty hole because there's 8 spaces. Always have that empty hole in front of you. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it so that the empty hole is in front of me. Hold on to it. Count up 3. Pull that out and put it here. And now I'm not even going to make sure that I really push it down into the cardboard. I just need something to hold it. So turn it towards yourself. Go up 3. It was 1, 2, 3. And then turn it towards yourself. Here's my empty space. 1, 2, 3. Now this is the thing. Especially if you're making your own pattern. I am turning it. I believe this is clockwise, the way that the clock goes. So I'm turning it clockwise because I'm right-handed. Now, if you're left-handed and you're doing it this way, you might want to turn it counterclockwise. It doesn't matter so long as you make sure that you know which way you turn your circle. And it doesn't even have to be the same every time that you make one, but for the one that you're making, you need to know, are you turning your circle this way or the other way? Because it will change the look of your pattern if you stop in the middle and come back later and start turning it the other way. I know that by experience, and not even once, more than once. So what you may want to do is just write it down. I'm going up 3 and I'm turning it clockwise. So up 3 and turning it clockwise. So you might want to write that down for yourself. You'll know whenever you pick it up, you're always going to have the empty spot towards you. So then you write it down, up 3 and turn it clockwise. Then the next time you come and pick it up, you'll know exactly what you're doing. Now, if you want to do one that's a little bit different, like you want to go up 4 and turn it clockwise, or you want to go up 2 and try it. I've tried it different ways, and it looks pretty cool different ways. It looks different every time you do it. And one time I think I was even doing up 4 and clockwise, which that might be what they show you on the videos. I'm not sure. And then I did it like up 3 and clockwise, so the weave was just a little bit tighter in doing that. Now, the thing is, this is not super fast. It's very easy. And, you know, I mean, you can go fast, but, you know, you're braiding. It takes a while. The nice thing also about it is, like, I used to do, you know, like some different braidings. And it's like you got to have a tray to put it on. And then you have to pin down the top of whatever fibers you're using. You have to pin them up at the top to hold it steady for you. And, you know, and then do it that way. Now, there's a lot of different ways that you can braid doing it that way. But this is really nice. This would work great for kids. You know, just really for anything. I thought that they would make really cute dangles on the spine of a book. And I even thought about maybe trying at some point about maybe putting like a bead on here. Like taking this one, put a bead on it, pick it up, stuff the bead right to the center right there, and then put it like that. And then eventually that bead would go through and the bead would be braided into the braid. So the biggest thing is that you can just play with it. I'm trying to go far enough so it comes out the other end so you can see what it looks like. I do have some that are finished to show you, but I thought I'd You might want to see what this one looks like. But yeah, just play with it. And the thing is that you want to hold this tight. So, keep it tight because that keeps everything else tight. And it works great for just sitting in the evening. If you're just sitting around and you want something, I have to keep my hands busy. So, like I'm either fussy cutting or doing something like this. Just something to keep my hands busy while hubby and I are sitting and watching TV. And that it's just easier for me. I can't just sit. If I just sit, I get antsy and I have to get up. So this makes it easier for me. And speaking of hubby, I have to show you. This is a new table. I've had my box for 3 years now. Well, almost 3 years. Oops. And it was really getting soft, and I was having hard when I was doing anything where I had to press down on it. This is a really nice, like 1-inch Formica top table with little short metal legs about like this. My husband saw it at a secondhand store. And he's like, hey, would that work for your videos? And it is just so solid. So that is so cool. I'm so happy with that. And so, yeah, he found that for me. I thought that was pretty cool. It was $2. So that was a great find. I don't think it's going to get squashed down in the next 3 years like my box did. Although my box did me very well for this time. Which I just use this to get me closer to the camera. Because my tripod doesn't go down far enough, and I use my phone. I don't know how to zoom. If I need to get further away, then I just move the table. And then when I need to be close, I just use the table. But I don't, hubby's talked about, maybe I should just get a camera or whatever, but I like my phone. It works really well, and I know exactly how to use it. And when it comes to electronic things, I really don't care for them much. Although I wouldn't be able to do this without them. But I'm not a big researcher or anything like that on it. Alrighty, so we're getting to the point where I can tell now that my braid is coming through the other end. Like the actual braid part instead of just the knot. So I'll show it to you what it looks like. And then I think what I'll do is I'll stop right here for a second, go and grab some beads and see how that works. And I'll come back and show you how that works. Okay, so here we go. We're starting to come out the other end, and you can just barely see there. We've got that braid. Now that braid's probably about 1/4 of an inch long, and then this is 1/4 of an inch thick. So in that amount of time, we did about 1/2 inch. So, and then I can just go set this down now because I know that I'm going up 3 and I am turning it clockwise. So if I was doing something different, then I would want to write that down so that I knew what I was doing. Let me see here. What am I doing here? Okay, this one is the same. And see, this one I did with yarn. And so this is much thicker. And then here is the one that I did with embroidery floss. And if you can see right here in the middle, and I don't know if you can really notice the difference. Let me see. But in the middle, right here, there's a change. And not only does it change directions, but it also changes the size of the way that the angles go. So I'm thinking that on one side I was going one direction and going up 4, and then on the other side I was going the other direction and only going up 3. So now it's not really necessarily super noticeable unless you really look at it. So if you do that, don't worry about it. But it is, if you really look, you can see that there is a difference between the two sides. And that's because I didn't know what I was doing. And I did the same thing with this one. I had set it down and I was doing this here. And this one I think was 2 or 3. I think. And then, and this is only 3 colors also. This is only 3 colors, so I just put them at the top and on each side. And then this is, I had to have been going the other way and not doing it the same. So, but like I said, play with it. You know, take it, and instead of going up 3 and clockwise, maybe, you know, just use 5 strings, and then you're going to have extra empty holes. And then just make sure you know how many strings are you skipping to get to the hole in front of you. And then you also need to know the hole that you just emptied. So I'll take this off and I'll come back and I'll show you what I mean about that too. So I'm going to take this one off, and I left this on here just so I could show you how to take them off. So to take them off, all you do is just take out your threads, pull them through your hole, and then just tie a knot. And then depending on how you want to do that, you can kind of tie it so that it leaves a loop at the top if you want a loop to hang it by. And you just want to make sure that you get your knot right to where the beginning of your braiding is. You don't want to be up higher than your braiding, because then it will get a little bit loose and it will also look funny. So we'll just tie that knot really tight right there. And there we go. Just cut that off. And then you could use that for a bracelet. And just hook it together, tie it together, whatever. Or you can use it to hang off of a planner. You can use them. Now this is awfully thick, but you could use the thinner ones for bookmarks. You know, just put them so that they'll hook at the top, put them on a paper clip or whatever, and then they can just lay right down into your book wherever you're at. So you can use them for lots of different things. And so as far as the, let's just take 5. We'll take just 1 red. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I think you probably should use an odd number. I'm not really sure, but being that they use 7 to start with, let's try 5. Okay, so I'm going to put this through here, just like that, and then I'm going to go 1, okay, so I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to do them all 2 apart. Okay, so 2 apart. This is my, right now, this is my center. So I'm going to go, let's go 3. So 1, 2, 3, just like the other then, and go right to my opening. Now this is where I took it from. That's the one thing you want to make sure. Where did you take it from? So now I'm going to turn it to there and go 1, 2, 3. So that's not going to work. All right. So what we're going to do is put it here, and let's try 2. So let's go up 1, 2. Put it in front of me. Turn that hole to me. Go up 1, 2. Put it in front of me. That's my hole. 1, 2. Put that in front of me. This is my hole. 1, 2. Put that one in front of me. This is my hole. We're going to miss the red one every time. 1, 2. Put this in front of me. This is my hole. 1, 2. Put this in front of me. This is my hole. 1, 2. This one in front of me. This is my hole. 1, 2. Put this one in front. This is the hole. 1, 2. Put this one in front. This is the hole. I'm gonna just keep right on going. Oops, I almost went too far. This is my hole. Until it comes out just a little bit. This was my hole. So that we can see what it looks like. Because it may or may not work. But that's the thing, is that, you know, just play around with it. Use different numbers of threads. Maybe you don't even have to use an even number. Or I mean an odd number. Maybe you could try an even number and see how that works. But until, you know, like I said, we're just skipping the red. So it's probably going to go right down the center of this. And we're not going to be able to see it. It'll just be like a red core. But I don't know. We're going to find out as soon as this starts coming out the other side. And it does just take a minute. And if all of a sudden I start pulling the red one, it's because somehow I counted wrong. And you'll find that you do that, but what the heck, just keep on going and see how it looks for the second half. Okay, it's almost to the point where I can really feel the braid itself is coming out the bottom. I just lost my place. I put this one here. From here, maybe. I think so. If I could. Now I'm totally losing my place because I'm trying to just hurry. That's the one thing where you use the 7 strands and, you know, you're always doing it the same way. You won't lose your place, really, because there's only one opening. But with this one, we've got a few extra openings. Okay. We've gone as far as we're going to go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just take this off so that we can at least see a little bit more of it. And it's not doing it. After all of that, it's not doing anything. So that pattern does not work. And but the thing is that this one just got very, very twisted. That's all it did was twist this one. But it is fun to play with. Like I said, this is just 3 strings, and it looks like this and like this, depending on which pattern I used. So, but write them down. I should even write this one down. Say 5 of them and skip 2 doesn't work, so that I don't try it again. But I will be back in just a second, and I'm going to try and put a bead on this one and see if that works or not. And, you know, I'll make it a little bit longer so the bead comes all the way through, and then I'll show you how I did it. And I will show you what we need for next week. So I'll be back in just a second. Okay, I am back, and here is my wheel, and it did work. There is our bead right on our braid right inside there, and it worked really well. So I'm going to show you really quickly how I did it. Remember that, you know, when you go and set it down, when you pick it back up, always the empty spot is towards you. And if you're doing like trying your own patterns, just mark the spot that you know you need to pick up, you know, with a piece of tape, or, you know, even just put a line or something so that you know exactly where you need to start when you pick it back up again if you're trying different patterns. But this is our normal pattern, so we pick it up and we are going to, this is the spot that is the spot we're going to do. It's between these 2 yellows. The reason that I'm saying this is when I take this one out to put a bead on it, before I put it down here, I'm going to have 2 empty holes when I go to pick this back up. So I need to remember that it's the 2 yellows is where this is going to go. And then what you're going to do is, I have these little tiny seed beads that we got a long time ago. for our stash, and the holes are not big enough to put our wire needle through. So I want to show you how to put something through a seed bead, so long as your string is small enough to go through the hole. But there's no way I'm going to get this together, you know, well enough, and then by the time it gets folded over, you know, on a wire needle, it's not, I don't think it's going to fit through there. My wire's too thick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take this, put it right in the center of a piece of tape like this. Okay, it's got to be longer than our string, and the string needs to be in the center. And then what you're going to do is you're going to fold it over, fold the tape over on itself so that string is right in the fold. Just like that. Now that's not folded straight or anything, doesn't matter. We just want to make sure that string is in the fold, right in the fold, and that we've got extra tape above that, probably a good 1/2 inch or more. And then what you're going to do is you're going to press that down really well. Take your scissors, go right next to your fiber that you're cutting, that you're trying to thread. And then what you're going to do when you get to the end of the fiber, point your scissors right out towards the end of that piece of tape so that you wind up putting a little teeny tiny point. I don't even know if you can see this. I don't know how to show that to you because it's see-through, but there's a little teeny tiny point. I just literally went out to a point on the end of the tape. Okay, so now our tape has a little tiny point on it. We're going to take that point and put it right through our bead. And the reason that you want it to be at least a good 1/2 inch or so is because you want it to go through the bead and have enough sticking out the other end, which I know you can't see because it's see-through, but that you can get a hold of it. And then you hold that point and pull your bead onto your string. Okay, so that's a tape needle, and that I use those for seed beads mostly. Alrighty, so remember I need to hold this. I need to go between the two yellows. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push that bead right to the center of that hole and then just pull this one down tight. Okay, and then we're going to just continue on as we did, going up 3, putting it in the center, and each time I give that just a little bit of a push, mostly just because it kind of wants to, you know, it doesn't want to go through the hole because the hole is small, and so that just helps it to make its way through. I don't know for sure if I'd had to do that, but that is how I was doing it. And remember, whenever you're doing this, you're kind of holding your knot, pulling down a little bit on that thread to pull your braid through as you go. Oh, and when you're doing this, if you have really long strings, they're going to want to get tangled up a little bit. So when you turn it and you take this and bring it over, and then I just kind of run my hands through the strings just to make sure, you know, you don't have to do it when they're short, but when they're really long, you don't want to let them get really tangled before you try and untangle them. So if you just kind of run your fingers through it each time you give it a turn when you have really long strings, then that will help keep them not tangled up. And I can now feel it at the bottom, and I wasn't even pushing on it because I was talking, so you don't have to push on it. Maybe just as it's really first starting, the first couple of times. And we'll quit this as soon as we get it out the other side so that you can see what it looks like. And I think that it may seem like this is a little harder than it is. My hands aren't working great this morning. So that's why it kind of looks like it's really not that hard to pull these out. I'm just having a hard time getting a hold of them. So it's not hard at all. Okay, and that's almost out the other side now. And so see, it doesn't really take that long to get from the top all the way through to the other side, which is about 1/4 inch. Oh. Well, let's just do it just a couple more times. You can fast forward through this part if you want to, but there's no point in showing it to you if you can't really see it. So you just remember, go up 2 and then towards yourself, and if you have really long strings, rake through the strings each time. It's just one extra little step just to do that, which will save you a whole lot of a headache of trying to untangle strings if they basically get braided to themselves on the bottom. That's one thing I remember about the one that I had bought the first time I did it. Oh, I got a tangled mess because I really didn't think about it, and I was going really fast because I wanted to see what it looked like, and all of a sudden it was like they were all knotted up, and it was a real pain in the behind. Okay, so for next week, we're not going to need to buy anything for our project next week, and we're going to use what we have in our stash. I'll show you that in just a second. Okay, here we go. So here we go. Now, on this bead, it was just holding the bead there. On this bead, the string is coming around that side of the bead, so you can just slide that over to get your bead to that spot. Maybe that's what happened because I didn't help push it through. But there we go. Now we got a bead right there. Now I can go a little bit further and put another bead on so that I wind up having beads braided right into it all the way down. They're not going anywhere. They're not coming off unless the whole braid comes apart, which is really kind of cool. So, but there we go. I hope that you like this little project. Like I said, it'd be a great kids project for the winter time, you know, when they're sitting inside and they're bored. But, so, and don't forget tape needles if you need to thread a seed bead. So for next week, we're going to need our wire, we're going to need our buttons, and our googly eyes, which I couldn't find my googly eyes to show you because they're at Papa's house and it's dark in there, so I couldn't get to them. But that's what we're going to need for next week: our buttons and our wire, and we'll need our pliers. So thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. So I hope that if you try this, that you enjoy it. I just think that they're really nice for lots of different types of danglies. And like I said, you can get different patterns because these two patterns are definitely different than those. So, but I really do appreciate you stopping by. Thank you very much. And I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.